Hello, welcome back to another video. This is going to go over Empires of the Scratchgrove. So, to begin, I'm going to talk about the previous versions that I have worked on. The first version was just developing the hexagonal grade. The next version was pathfinding development, which was much harder. This wasn't one of my favorite versions. I wish I had done something else. Anyways, next version. Now, revamp lighting and ant trailing was one of my favorite versions just because it introduced a system that I had been waiting on for so long. Lighting. Lighting was honestly one of my favorite ideas to implement, and honestly, it worked. Level setups was again one of my favorites, but it wasn't as good as revamping lighting because it just required fixing the bugs of revamping lighting. However, these level setups allowed for food generation and a revealing and hiding system, which is very satisfying to see, which you'll see in just a moment. To actually get into what we're working on, I'm actually working on ant boarding and ant independence. Essentially, what boarding is a form of herding, let's say, like a herd of sheep moving in a brush. And as they move, they stick together, but also maintain their distance apart from each other to make sure they are independent yet together. Let's get to some gameplay. This is one of the work in progress versions of my game, and honestly, one of my favorites. So, as you can see, there's ample lighting, there is ample movement of the actual game, and honestly, this showcases the entire game pretty well. These are actually pretty fun because these are big-headed ants, one of a very interesting species. These actually are defensive ants that protect their colony with their big heads, ironically. Let's go over to explain what the hex grid is on itself. The hex grid is a very complex system which requires all this code in order to run, but simplifying it down, it is essentially showing a tile based off of what letter in the list it represents. Let's say, for example, this tile. This tan tile would be around a question mark because it hasn't been explored yet, or it has been explored, but rather it is unknown as to what it can be. It's just empty. This one would be an H to represent a wall. I know. W should be for wall, but H still works. Now, these black tiles are actually the same thing as these H tiles. They are just hidden under a lighting engine I created, as I mentioned earlier. The star system would essentially represent how the actual ants would reveal their food. Now, let's go into the designs of these ants. The designs of these ants are one of my favorite things as it shows just how much these ants are unique from each other. For instance, this is an MIT ant, I call them, as you can see the MIT on their gaster, and you can also see that they are golden in order to represent the Scratch's colors. This is a Formica fusca ant. This Formica fusca ant is one of a kind in the fact that it is the first to be introduced into this game. Formica rufa ant, however, is one of a kind in the fact that it is an ant that can shoot projectiles from its gaster. And this is Solenopsis invicta. Solenopsis invicta is able to move very fast. They are tiny, but they have multitudes of numbers, and they can bite very, very painfully. Now, Adacephalotus, a leafcutter ant. They don't eat the leaves they cut. However, they use them to make fungus, which then they eat as their food. Now, this is a big-headed ant, one of the ants I showed you before. They defend their territory via their big head. Their big head is actually what defends their colony as a whole. I will be willing to implement any of these suggestions in the future. Please add to the suggestion box. Have a good day, and goodbye.